Probably don't need to have the camera on if no one's joining virtually. So welcome everybody to ARC. We'll go ahead and get started. Looking at the agenda today. Tammy, actually, she's coming in a little bit late, so she asked that we move a few things around. So we're actually going to talk about the JDC Ranch Development Project first, if that's okay. And then we'll talk about Ruby Resort. I think Ruby Resort will take most of the time. I just wanted to give David Reed, and I invited engineers here. I guess there they are. Wow.
Hey, what's going on?
Good. But I will mention, I apologize. I do have to leave at 4, so if we could end at 4, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know who Deborah Mog is. She's waiting. A couple of weeks ago during a planning commission meeting, I was presenting and my screen got hacked. Someone started drawing on my screen and there was like a ton of people. I was like really embarrassed by it. So hopefully that's not what this person's doing.
Hmm.
Anybody?
Remember that.
Yeah.
This time? Again? Welcome, engineers. I was just mentioning to David and Summer and Iris that we have to finish by 4 and that we're gonna just rearrange these items real quick. So we're gonna talk about JDC Ranch Development Agreement first. To give you just a where this is, let's see who's. I'm not sure. So whoever's on, if you're joining online, welcome. I'll mute you, and then we may have some public comment. This is just an agency review committee meeting where we talk about projects as county reviewers, and the public's welcome to join and watch, and we may allow some public comment. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the JDC development. I wanted to, are you familiar with that project at all? It's out west by Plain City.
Oh, 147.
It's on 26.
The other one, yeah.
We're preparing the rezone's getting ready to go through. We're preparing a development agreement for it. And
Is part of it going to be in Plain City?
no,
Okay.
it's the Nilsson Homes project. You can kind of see an outline here. It's basically this polygon right here. If you want, let me go ahead and pull up a concept for you to look at. See if you had any comments on it. I didn't know. I figured they would have talked to you. It's been in since 2020. It's been a couple of years that we've been looking at this. I assume they would have talked to you.
So
to you guys
there's
about it.
probably a chance that if it's been in the system that I've already looked at it.
Okay.
But the problem is after a year, it's expired. So, I mean, I would go with the lead of the county, but if they called me and I'd say you'd have to resubmit because it's been over a year. You don't get it back on the ground. It's null and void because of all the changes that could happen.
Yeah, let me see if they have.
I mean, that city could have incorporated, I mean, it's just.
So the city chose not to incorporate this. They didn't want the development. There's too, I think they thought it was too dense, too many small lots. And so they chose, the Plain City chose not to annex it.
So it's unincorporated
It
Weed County?
is, yeah, unincorporated.
Is this the one that they did a couple of years ago?
JDC. Looks like maybe you hadn't had the chance to look at it. It
Was
was,
it a reviewer?
uh,
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
probably not, no.
There's no way that if it's more than a week old, I haven't reviewed it, so.
Okay. No, it doesn't look like we ever asked you to review this one yet, so.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're here now.
I don't know that I guess my intent was to find out any major concerns you had, and we can have the owners reach out to you. You will see this when a subdivision comes in like you normally would, but where the property is being rezoned from agriculture to higher density residential. I think what would be good for you to look at, and maybe the engineers as well, would be just, I guess, first of all, we could look at a few of these, the boundary of the project here. And then here's the zoning with street layouts. So connecting up to some projects in Plain City, also here's far west. They've worked together with us as staff pretty closely. We're comfortable with this layout and we think it's gonna be pretty smooth going through to the county commissioners. But you've got, basically you're gonna have single family, kind of on the perimeter. Probably between 10 to 6,000 square foot lots. And then you're gonna have townhomes and connected patio homes interior. And if you want, I told you a couple of days ago, I was sending this to you, I just haven't had the chance to, but if you wanted to look at the rezone, you can, or if you think maybe just at a subdivision level, might be where you want to look at. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Your guys.
And health is welcome to make comment on this. Engineering, I don't know if you had a chance to see this iteration yet, but any, there was a concern brought up by
Yeah.
somebody from the, who lives out in Plain City. They didn't like this. I don't know if you guys have any initial thoughts on it, but I would think that the design and maybe any mitigation of traffic concerns would probably be looked at more at the subdivision level.
Yeah, it's just not good to have a turn right. Or an intersection.
On an angle like that.
Yeah, I guess it'd be, I wonder how far it is from both those turns.
What was that?
It seems kind of blind. when
Yeah.
it went through, huh? From our standpoint, we wouldn't have any issues as long as they had public water sources. Public water system service and sanitary sewer, which obviously they would at this density, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't anticipate any kind of response from our office on it.
Okay, thank you. As in thoughts, I want to just kind of look at it later. Ash, I know you had a review on it. It looked like, or maybe Tucker. Remember this?
Yeah, I was told some things and I did some things.
Okay, this has changed a little bit since you last reviewed it, so we just wanted you guys to be aware of it. We're putting
It's
together
all public roads.
all public roads.
How big are they? I guess it's the time where they say how big they are and stuff.
We do talk about that a little bit here, yeah. Here you go.
In 83-foot right of way.
Yeah, just kind of a random number. I'm just kidding, no. I don't know the extent of why it was 83. And I'm trying to go back up so we can get it. I believe what happened was they took into consideration, because they're planning on this being annexed into Plain City at some point, they took into consideration.
Are they just
the,
following their standards pretty much?
They are,
This impact fee eligible, I don't know that that's something we'd agree on. Since the 66 is their minimum standard.
Is that for trails or what's that for? Or what does that mean? Impact fee eligible?
signalized intersection impact fee eligible. I'm guessing, yeah, I don't actually know. I could find out and get back to you.
Yeah, find out what that means, the impact fee eligible, those weird lines. And who's gonna be in charge of the signal? That's a question too, because I know we don't want it.
Okay. Who's gonna be in charge of the signal?
Like maintenance and paying for it.
Like the light?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't we?
It's on I mean, part of it's on our road, but it's.
Yeah, mostly Plain City roads.
What do you mean? What's Plain City's road?
2700 more. Or is that state road?
No. Hopefully not out here. I don't know.
It's this portion is county.
Half of it. Why can't we just say you need to annex into the town?
Because we can't, the city has refused to annex it.
So,
And the county commissioners have told us and the developer that they would be comfortable with this project being approved. Now we'll have to see if they really are when it goes to them in probably in a couple of months at the actual public meeting, but. Okay, well. Tucker, you got any thoughts? Like, seems like you might.
No, not here. It's a different.
You already approved it.
It's a different.
it's changed, that's done.
Well, I'll work out some of those details with you. In the interest of time, I think we mostly want to talk about Ruby Resort. I was trying to stall for Tammy for a little bit. But we'll talk about it.
Does this meeting have a budget? For a remote meeting?
Ruby River.
Oh, to Ruby River. No, we do not. I will ask, is everybody familiar with the Ruby Resort project?
No,
I am,
do you?
Somewhat. I
I'm on
looked
the
at where it
side.
was.
on some,
I'm very familiar with it.
I guess it's two.
Yes.
mhm,
Well, so are you, so
yeah,
I was gonna say.
yeah. I've visited it quite a few times.
Brad still on the team?
Scott,
Yeah, Scott, excuse me.
Yeah, that's okay.
I always call him Brad for some reason.
well, his last name's Braden.
Oh, maybe
so-
that's where I get it from.
Yeah, it's so,
Two first names.
yeah.
It's a little
Two
bird.
first, yeah, and so I heard him calling the IT saying, can I make sure my email pops up with Scott Braden, because everybody calls me Braden. I'm like, "Ah, see that."
So to give you an idea where it's at, we're east of Huntsville. We've got someone that applied for a conditional use permit. And they want to have recreation lodges. Currently. Iris, do you want to kind of explain what has
Currently,
happened?
they are in violation. They have several violations, both with the health department and with our division. And we're trying to clean them up, and it's slow and it's arduous and it's very painful. But we are continuing, so we, as code enforcement, we would not like to see anything progress until it's totally cleaned up. And until we get the okay from the health department
My understanding is it was being used as a campground that was not.
for
has never been
transients,
approved.
basically, and it was not approved.
Comes to zoning, F5 zone does allow for campgrounds if it's done through a conditional use permit. It also allows for.
But under the conditional use permit, they can only stay for 2 weeks
Yes.
out of the year.
And what's being proposed, we can actually look at that. And they're not actually, right now, they're not proposing it to be a campground. They're proposing it to be an 80-room resort with lodges, common gathering areas, and winter and summer activities. Before we even take this to our planning commission to have considered, where this is kind of a sensitive situation with the violations, we wanted to make sure that engineering, fire, and health were addressed before we even take it to the planning commission. To give you an idea of what they're asking for. So this is as of a couple weeks ago, this is the most recent layout.
Oh my goodness.
So the zoning does allow for what we call recreation lodges with up to 16 guest sleeping rooms. That can have overnight accommodations. There isn't it's not a limit to how long it doesn't say you can only use those lodges seasonally. They could continually use these as lodges for summer and winter activities, which given the area and the zone, it could be a good fit if they can get a conditional use permit and meet everyone's requirements. David, you had an approval already on there?
No, I don't know, do I? Before I comment, let's wait.
Conditional, okay.
Yes,
Yeah, you got any thoughts on this?
so I'll tell you right now that my issue is, and we're gonna try and make it work, right? I mean, I'll just try to see what we can do. The only thing I don't like is there's a bridge right there.
Oh,
So it's a single, well, even go back further to the highway. you've got a single access.
It has not been engineered.
Why it's not?
It will be,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, they will be required to have that gentleman in the corner tell me it's good to go. And he doesn't have to look at it, he just has to have their engineer submit to him. So,
What about fire?
but the other thing I'm worried about is access. Like I talked to him about, we need to look at a second access. What can we do? And I asked him to look at it and he said he'd get back to me. He hasn't. I just want to know if there's options. Is there something we can do? We can sprinkler them. But if something happened to that access, sprinklers aren't gonna do anything for the guy having a heart attack.
So
But
secondary access, something that would be required for
No.
the fire code? Okay,
no, we need to, like I said, we need to look at everything. What I asked him to first do is see if there's a possibility they can do that.
is there? I haven't been on the
No.
site. There's a bridge right here.
No,
No,
Oh, right here.
yes.
yeah, I'm
So-
going there Friday if you want to come.
It needs to be
For your town.
rated.
Mhm.
So you're thinking maybe they push another access out here,
Well, they still have to get over the bridge. They
Right.
can't,
an access out from this way?
I asked
Here
him,
is-
Seems like Bill, huh?
so there's big hills, which you can hardly get one of those razors up and down. And then on the bridge, where's the bridge go? There, on the bridge, there's river here and there's river there, so they can't, river here, so they can't get across over because the river's in the way.
Okay, so we're probably looking at what's the number of rooms or people that can be there without a
if
second.
they can sprinkler. So what I'm going to do is see if I can get some kind of a path, just like you said. Worst case scenario, something happens with that bridge, can we get people out? And if someone's hurt, can I get the gator in there to get them out? We can think outside the box. We have to be creative with our area. But now is the time to make them do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then will it go in 30 years? Will it still now? Probably not. Well, at least we try. But by code, on a single access, they can do it. It just has to be sprinklered. They already know that. So they're planning on it from what I understand.
So your enforcement of that rule would be at like a building permit level when they apply for a building permit, when they're asking
I
for
think it's
occupancy?
part of, I don't know, what does my comment say? You gotta remind me. Sometimes it depends on how late in the afternoon.
Sure.
That's just the truth.
Mhm, it is.
Talked with design professional and a lot of concerns answered. We will continue.
Oh, and then everybody never got back to me. So. Thing is, I mean, I've done my part. Now I'm waiting for him.
You may want to get in there
So-
and sometimes conditional can throw people off. You may, I don't know if you want to get in there and just say not approved until they
can.
actually fix those.
Sure, absolutely.
Uh,
I shouldn't have done conditional. That's a mistake. I don't know why I did, to be honest with you. It should be not approved. Conditional is, well, it used to be, okay, so here's the thing, there's not really a conditional, and I'll tell you why. Conditional means I've given you requirements. If you do them, you're approved. If you don't do them, you're not approved.
Yeah.
The problem is, I put the conditions in the review, and then somebody at the county will call me and say, you gotta change it to approve so we can move forward. So it's like, well, then take conditional out, right?
Yeah, it's on the fence.
Right, so to me, conditional means, yes, it's approved if you do what I tell you to do. Now, the good news is Stan and Kelly, they usually watch those plans, and if they see my comments, they'll say, no, farmer said he approved you, but with sprinklers or whatever.
Mhm.
okay.
And so the county's pretty good about it, don't get me wrong.
Sounds like they don't have really a plan, at least not anything that you've seen.
We're gonna, well, and so what I wanted to do is talk to them about, what are we gonna do? Are we, how many units are there gonna be? Here's the other thing, where's the water?
I can kind of answer that. Currently, they have no approved system.
I
And
think that's why
so,
they haven't called me back.
Yep.
I told them, they said they're gonna put a tank up here, and they're gonna put in the 200,000 gallons or whatever.
mhm.
So, okay,
Yeah, they've got a long ways to go with the division of drinking water before they have an improved public water system. So historically, it was a public water system, but then It kind of got separated from the other portion of the public water system. That one kind of retained its status as an approved system. And this area lost its kind of rating as an approved system. And it's in really bad shape. I mean, it's in bad shape. And so they've got a long process with the Division of Drinking Water to have that come up to par.
Is it a well?
It's a spring and it's holding tanks. Yeah. So springs are kind of historically more prone to bacteria and needing chlorination. And I mean, the rules governing public water systems are like 1,000 pages. I mean, there's just multiple sections. So they've got, again, like a lot of engineering. So the engineering will be reviewed, source protection, if they require it, will be reviewed. We'll have to have a certified individual, kind of oversee it, do sampling. So they've got a long process.
Did they do, so, okay, I guess there was a question about how many units there are. And I'm curious from a health perspective, if you think that that could work, or with, what do they want to do, just one storage tank? Have they been in conversation with you?
So two answers to that. So our office in no way reviews or has those engineering, like we don't oversee the
If it's,
engineering
public,
standards.
Gotcha,
So I'm just not familiar with,
that makes sense.
that's just not in my wheelhouse, to know if they can actually get enough storage for that. And then you add fire suppression on top of it, and that's always interesting.
Right, so there's always two numbers, the usage number that's not determined by me, and then there's a storage number, which I determine. And what we'll do is we take the largest fire demand structure within the development, and that's what we figure fire flow, or the most demanding structure. Might not be
Like the largest.
because the largest might be
Oh, okay.
sprinkler, you get a reduction, but anyways, we take the highest demand building. And then we figure fire flow, and that's what I tell them they have to have. Then they have to figure out, like she said, the usage quantity, and then they've got to add them. And so all I said is what the storage is. And to be honest with you, a couple of them aren't done right. That's all I'll say now. That we've done in the past, because they don't do the usage part. All they do is mine storage.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, for this, it probably, I just don't know, because they'll get a reduction because they're gonna sprinkle them. So it'll probably be 1,500 gallons a minute for 2 hours. Do the math on it. 120 times 150 is what the tank will have to be, just storage.
15,000, is that what ballpark? Is that what you thought?
For storage. Well,
Cool. 15,
I wasn't following quite on the numbers, but
Million.
I would try.
About 180,000. So just-
For just fires to question?
It seems like fire, yeah, it's usually at least 200.
So on just a single family dwelling, it's 240,000 gallons. And so a guy asked me, he's like, well, I'm gonna build one house. What's my requirement? 240,000 gallons. Well, he goes, well, I want to build 17. You probably know the project I'm talking about. And he goes, so what's my fire flow for 17? 240,000 gallons. Because we're not going to assume that all the houses are going to catch on fire the same day.
Mhm.
So you go for the largest structure in that development, and so for homes, it's 240, so you might as well build 17. And then put in the tank. That's the project, they're below Nordic. Yeah.
Yeah. From a septic standpoint, they're gonna have to get their septic.
More
system.
than code compliant. I mean, they just code compliant, but more than just renovated. So this is definitely an expansion of use beyond what's existed before. So this is just, will be treated completely anew. There won't be any, evaluating vested interest. Again, this is probably gallon per day, 3 times what is currently at the location. So they'll need to do all the soil work, which should probably end up being about 5 soil test pits in the area where they plan to do the septic. More importantly, is they'll have to do groundwater table monitoring, because I think they're proposing it kind of on the northwest side of the property. So that one lonely blue rectangle, it's kind of northwest of that, at least the drawing that they proposed. And that's really wet. Like I already said, I don't know if it's an irrigation or if it's a kind of backfed arm of the river, but it's completely wet and soggy there.
Mm.
So they're gonna have to do water table monitoring. And it's not gonna be an ideal location. I mean, I would anticipate it possibly not to pass for water table in that area, just from what we saw last year. So soil work, water table work, if I ran the numbers really quickly on 80 units. I think the use is about 120 gallons per day per room. That puts it at about 10,000 gallons. That's without a restaurant or any other amenities like pool houses or anything like that. That puts it into a system that would have to be overseen by a body politic on top of it, which means they'd have to talk some entity into acting as a body politic.
For what's the number? What's the threshold?
Over 5,000 requires a body of politic, and it actually pushes it into a term that's called a large underground wastewater disposal system that's overseen by the state.
When you say 5,000, kind of gallons,
Mhm.
is there a limit on like number of rooms or anything that?
And there's a table that calculates daily flow. So yeah, there's a table that you would go to, you'd find the number. I think the number is 120 gallons per unit per room. And that's just recollection from just
So
out of my head. It could be
If it's
wrong.
120 and there's 112 rooms.
Well, I think there's 80 room. Oh, are they saying 112 rooms?
Yeah, so there's
Oh, yeah.
there's 7 lodges with 16 rooms each.
Okay, yeah, run those numbers.
So
It's
what
gonna
do I
be
multiply 112 by?
120.
That one might be good with the limit.
Yeah,
Almost
and
like
that's
that.
before they have any kind of clubhouse or food facility, so. I mean, that number, they're well beyond where they need to be overseen by the state of Utah.
So they need some sort of public entity to, wow.
So it's gonna be, completely treatment, if it goes through, if the site's even feasible, it's gonna be, something like a pack bed media, drip irrigation. Large system through the state of Utah, through us, overseen by a body politic. So it's a big project.
Guessing the county engineers probably don't want to take on inspecting the,
When it's up to us, no.
Yeah.
But we get overruled.
have they
And-
talked to you guys at all about this? 'Cause I
Not
picture-
in any tangible way. So, we last spoke kind of during the kind of enforcement about the pre-existing lodges, right?
Yes.
Hey. And they put in an application to do soil work. But they had done one and we said you really were gonna have to do 5. And one of the hard things is until we get solid numbers, it's really hard to give people the best advice or accurate advice until you have some tangible numbers, right? And I don't think we really did, and this will likely change, would be my guess, honestly. So just kind of working off what they were telling us, which was at that time, getting the lodge back into use, we directed them to do maybe 3 test pits, 5 test pits. To do something of this size, they'd have to do at least 5 soil test pits. But they might not have the area. I mean, the truth is about where that yellow line is next to the number 39. That is, like I said, really wet. Even for a pack bed media, they'd have to maintain a 50-foot offset to it. And that's kind of assuming that you maintain the separation to groundwater. But the point is, that I think they're going to struggle for space for the flow that they're proposing.
Okay. And maybe maybe it sounds like septic is gonna be the biggest hurdle for these guys. If they want to actually do this, maybe they phase it out.
Mhm.
And so if they don't exceed that 5, as you said, 5,000 gallons,
Yeah,
I wonder, we'd have to figure out.
but that makes me a little concerned if the total build out is like
Sure.
a state system, because there's a lot of additional requirements when the state gets involved. And so it feels a little like counterintuitive. Basically, it feels like if we let them go through under the number that's required through the state, realistically, they probably still would have the same type of system. But that's what I worry about, is that the state would impose additional requirements on them. that they couldn't meet because of kind of a phased approach, so
Makes sense.
I think there's some downfalls with that.
Okay. So Tammy Summer, if you didn't catch it, was just saying on this. Where there's 112 rooms. Times it by 120 gallons,
Mhm. Yep.
per room,
I'm gonna probably double check that, but
which takes it to the state requirements. So they're gonna have to have a body politic over the sewer, over the septic system, which. Maybe they understand, maybe they don't. It sounds like they probably don't understand it, but that might be something that. We need to make sure that they know. And I don't, are you guys planning on doing a review on this so that those kind of things?
I
are
was gonna ask, I don't know that we normally do conditional use, but I think we should in this case. So you'd like us to kind of say just basically a status of where we're at with them, like X, Y, and Z have not been done.
Yes.
Cool, I can absolutely do that.
Cool. What about our engineers? What are you guys thinking about this project? Any initial thoughts as you look at the site plan? Please go ahead.
There's a flood zone. Yeah.
There's a flood zone.
Oh, is there? What about 100% back from the river?
Yep, they're gonna have to meet that. I believe they're going to, so, I mean,
let's.
let's handle the flood zone first.
Zone A, that whole thing.
They have to get to floodplain development permits, right? And
Flood proof
and-
everything built above the BFB. And a new no rise certificate as well.
go through the whole FEMA process to make sure you probably wanna see some inspections on that bridge. Yeah, and everything that was said about the bridge, yeah, we concur. Stream setback, they are aware of that. I believe they've made all the new buildings compliant. There is an existing building that I believe they're saying is used as a clubhouse, or I think it may be a dwelling, I'm not exactly
It's
sure.
being used illegally as a dwelling.
Okay,
Or
was it built
it-
as a dwelling?
No, it was always built as a clubhouse.
Okay.
They used to hold dances in there in the 1950s with the old Eagles organization. And then when they split off in 2010 and 2011, the Eagles down below took all the water rights and everything. And that's what's going on with that. And then these guys bought this place thinking they could do whatever they wanted with it. And then they had all these transients in there. So we had to clear them out.
That building may be allowed to be within 100 feet if it's. If it's always been there, if it was legally constructed.
It was built prior to 66.
You can grandfather in, stuff like that, it's right along the river. And if it was built legally.
We do it for most everything in Ogden Canyon. We have to.
Oh,
Iris, is it the same owner since 2010, 2011?
Since 2011, pretty much, yeah. And so they've been living in there illegally, they're quote unquote managers. So, but health department did close that building off. But I have my suspicions. Because every time I go there, the doors are open. So,
stream setback, that's one thing we would make sure that they do. Do you know if this is a buildable parcel as it sits today? I don't remember in talking with the owners, but that'll be one thing we'll have to address with the conditional use before they can get a building permit.
Yeah,
It may need to go through.
I don't know that it is. There's no dwelling that's in there, correct?
they've got
They-
illegal dwellings. on
There
there,
may
but
be,
not a- No,
there's nothing ever permitted as a
No.
dwelling.
no,
Well,
The-
well,
the bathroom and the clubhouse, there's a bathroom.
there's that old house about where the red dot is.
I was gonna
We're
say-
just
Oh.
gonna wanna throw that out there.
Yeah, that's-
For that to be.
I
My
forgot
fault.
about that. That's the 1909 house,
Mhm.
which was built there way prior to planning, but they have they had that lovely tube that went into the river for waste and stuff.
Has that old house been used at all?
Yes, it was currently occupied. We had to throw the occupants out. We shut it
Okay.
down.
So yeah, you're right. That may check the box for being deemed a legal lot or a lot of record, I guess.
And that's
a
across the
singular
river.
Parcel.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we kind of hope that they were separated, but it's all one parcel.
It is, and they have not been taxed for that building since they split from, originally split from the Eagles. So I went upstairs and showed them where it was,
Are they gonna go back for 5 years? You know,
probably.
So you guys wanna talk about, you guys will do a review
I mean,
on that
that-
as well?
I guess the other thing we said, probably a traffic study.
I mean,
Just
yeah, 'cause
because
a lot
of
people
the
coming in and out.
impact, okay?
So, yeah, depending what UDOT says, it may have to be like turning lanes and things like that.
I recommend that, I guess any department that has, that are bringing up concerns, yeah, please make sure, yeah, highlight that in your review. So we can get that over to the owner, so they kind of know what to expect. But you took a breath.
Yeah.
You wanna say something?
So why are you even reviewing this when they still have issues with Iris and everyone?
Somebody can apply for a conditional use permit regardless of their issues. We are working with them. And we're not going to approve the conditional use permit until all the issues have been resolved.
and they can't get a business license until they have the CUP.
Right,
So, is there one entrance into that Iris or?
only
two?
one, there's only one.
Just one.
And I'm going up there Friday to do an inspection, so if anybody would like to come, they're more
I
than
kinda wanna go
welcome.
with it.
It looks a lot better than it used to.
Yeah,
So
heck
it's
of
not,
a
as-
lot.
it's
Not as scary as it
almost
used to be.
neck back.
Yeah.
I'll see it.
So would you like us to try to do our best to echo what we've heard from Division of Drinking Water? To get or to anticipate a review from Division of Drinking Water, just don't expect them to kind of do anything like that. I mean, they're not gonna hop on Frontier and do that. So we could try to get you any update from the status of that public drinking water review. They're kind of hard to work with, though. You know, they kind of just say things are in the process of being reviewed, but you don't easily get kind of an itemized list of. These are the 15 deficiencies that we still haven't had addressed, but we could try to do our best if you'd like us to echo what they kind of translate from their review process, but if you'd like us just to leave that where it lies, we can also do that.
So, Tammy, what do you think? You're the project man on this one.
Well, I think if health department can pass along anything you guys
Okay.
know about what's going on at the state or any requirements that they still need to at least look into, that would be really
Okay.
helpful. I do have a question though. Let's say they get up to the 40 rooms, right? That maxes out the 5,000 gallon capacity.
Well, I did just double check, so 125 is what hotel motels.
125,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So where does that
Close.
close?
I was close, well, and so the lodge is kind of the dark horse in that, because they currently, I think they wanted to do food service out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their big MO is food service, maybe bar service.
Oh,
And
this,
that,
sorry,
the
yeah,
green
I should've pointed
building.
out the lodge right here, right?
Well, the green brick building.
The green one is the
clubhouse,
clubhouse.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
even through all the conversations, that thing was. I mean, they actually have a kitchen in it, and
Yeah.
it's so near being a food service establishment already that I kind of, I don't know where, and that could have itself pretty easily 3,000 gallon flow
It's in
rate,
the flood zone, yeah.
so I don't know.
Floodproof.
So my question is, and maybe it should be directed to UDOT, but between engineering and fire, would you want to see more than one entrance in there? There were emergency.
Would I want to?
We talked about that right at the
Oh,
beginning.
okay, I apologize.
No, you're good.
Should've been like-
No, it's okay. So let me hurry, because I found some more information, so that's good that you asked, because this is probably pertinent, because they're gonna ask for the facts, and all I can give them is what it is.
Mhm.
I can work on that other little thing, but it's not but. The access off of 39, there are rules that it has to follow, but if there's less than 100. The rules are for multi-family dwellings, but over 100, which there is, to 200, they have to all be sprinklered, but they can still be on a single access, which is crazy.
Oh,
But it's in there.
Wow.
Now, but it does say that every structure in that access has to be sprinkled, so that lodge has to be retroed. And every dwelling unit has to be sprinkled. So.
And it's not the
it won't be
easiest.
Negotiable. Now, the bridge width may have to be increased. And it's gonna have to be engineered. So I'll tell them it's 75,000 pounds. And then it has to be certified, and he has to tell me it's good to go. So they can't just email me and say, yep, it's good. No. Our engineer has to verify.
And I was gonna say the entrance to there isn't exactly, I mean, it's a little awkward getting into that. entrance.
Yeah, kind of just.
Yeah, yeah, because of the angle.
And we'll have to make him do a monument, address marker.
Yeah.
You know, those are all little things, but.
Mhm.
I mean, technically, so far, we can make it work if they can meet health department's requirements and.
And
I don't know.
and I will say to that point, we have not deemed it feasible by any means for what they're proposing. You know, so that statement that this is a feasible project, we really don't have enough information to make that statement. In fact, I'm pretty tentative that this is too large to make fit on what available property they have. Because that's one other thing is that the state of Utah requires 3 total drain fields to be installed. I think maybe 2 originally and then a 3rd to be left available, but that's a lot of footprint. So,
May need to, if it's going to work, it sounds like they're probably gonna need to
And-
scale it back a little bit.
probably,
And where they're proposing most of the lodges, it's in the meadow. So it's kind of separated from the main body. Because you have to go over that bridge to get to the meadow.
mhm.
Well, these are all things in our conditional use code that say they have to be mitigated before a permit can even be issued. So I think it's super helpful to talk about these things. Sorry, I'll let you take over on this.
I think that's it. I just, so for anyone that's not as familiar with the process, and I know Iris is, but David, Summer, perhaps not. This could, you know, if they can show that they can mitigate these things, this can go through the approval process. It does not mean that we issue that CUP though.
Mhm.
So they won't be able to get a building permit. They can't get a business. There's a lot they can't do until they have actually physically mitigated all of this.
Okay, but it sounds like
Okay.
it's still super important for us to put in our comments and concerns about
Right.
whether, like our review.
And I think on one like this, so sometimes we've gone through the planning commission and gotten somebody a conditional use permit without necessarily having finalized a lot of times, like with the agritourism, for example, maybe health department, there's still some things to work through.
Mhm.
But I think on this one, I don't know what your thoughts are, Tammy, but yeah, if we could make sure you guys are signed off before this even is considered by the planning commission. Now, the owner, did you invite them to this? I probably not.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they on?
No, they're not. on.
Oh, because someone's on.
Somebody was waiting to.
Jeremy Schmidt.
No, someone else.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
just
hold
me,
on.
someone
Yeah,
else.
someone else was.
Okay, well, if they were on, we would have
Heidi?
allowed them to
Heidi? Oh, I'm making a joke.
speak.
Some old-
That doesn't look like they are. Just because it's such a sensitive situation, maybe, and because the planning commission may choose to say, look, the experts haven't even given approval yet, how can we give approval? So. We may, in fact, I think I got an email from Matt for some reason. He emailed me and said, hey, when are we gonna be on the planning commission? And I'll probably respond and say, just work that through Tammy, but then it's probably gonna be a little while.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say about the project?
No, we'll just try to have reviews maybe tomorrow, even so it's timely.
My
Okay.
brother-in-law, yeah.
Do you want me to put something in there too?
I don't think so, unless you do. I think we understand that it's really not going anywhere until
Yeah.
they've got their stuff figured out with you. Anything else from engineering on the project? Okay, no, we'll put something in the review. Okay. Well, we've talked about the projects that are on the agenda, so I'll go ahead and I will end this ARC meeting. Thank you, everybody.